All right, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Welcome to the show. This is a series we have called Roaring Lions. And today I'm real honored to have Lazarus Nazari. And this brother's a very powerful brother. And this is really going to be a great experience. I'm really excited to have him here. I can't tell you how excited I am to interview this brother. This brother's got a lot of knowledge. This brother's got a lot of wisdom. And I'm excited. He's the first person I'm going to be interviewing. So he's the first person in this series. And I am very, very excited about that. I'm going to tell you. Very excited about that. So we're going to let everybody come in when they get the messages that we're live. And then we're going to get started with the show. I hope you all enjoy it. Okay, so come on in. Let me know you're here. Good to see you, Alexis. Let's get the show started. Okay, I'm glad you're all here for this excellent presentation. I got a powerful brother I'm about to interview, Lazarus. And this brother's got a lot of knowledge. He's very, very impressive. I'm glad you all came over. Welcome to the Roaring Lions. So if you got some dreadlocks, DM me at Pharaoh Said That, and I'm going to get you on too. These discussions are going to be powerful, and I don't want to keep the brother waiting. So let's get it going. Lazarus, my brother.
Yes, sir. Give thanks. Give thanks.
I'm very excited, brother. This is the first episode of Roaring Lions, and you know I had to get you on here first, bro, because I find you to be well impressive. Okay, I ain't gonna hold you.
Well, give thanks. I hope let's do some roaring tonight. Let's do some roaring.
You know that now.
Yes, sir.
Pronounce your name for the people.
Ross Lazarus Nazari.
Nazari.
Yes, I am Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated. I am also of Local 49, which is the Atlanta, Savannah, all the way into Florida and to Louisiana, the district of the Ethiopian World Federation. Give thanks. Yes, sir.
Positive. Now, brother, I'm going to start out with, where were you born and where were you raised?
I was raised in Savannah, Georgia. Savannah, Georgia, I'm a Gullah Geechee baby. I'm off of the water, off of the river. I'm a saltwater baby, marsh. So just like in Louisiana, we have our patois we have our Geechee. So when we get started, we could go in there because we like to say, come here, can't beat been here, So that's where I'm from. I'm from Savannah, Georgia. True bloodline of fishermen, boatmen. My grandfather and them are off St. Catherine's Island. My grandmother comes off of Skidaway Island. Very unique history with both of those locations. Very unique history. Most people don't understand when they think of the Gullah Geechee. Most people just think about food, soul food, and the Geechee talking. But there's a whole lot more. The Geechee are the separated ones. They lived on the outskirts. So you're following an ancient tradition, meaning somebody taught them that, meaning they could have gone into the inner cities, but they stayed on the outskirts. And me and in the vow of the Nazarite, it is a vow of separation. So this community actually followed a tradition of separation to maintain something. What was maintained was the truth that was there, that connection between the East and the West, that connection to Africa, holding on to those ancient traditions, and that tradition of understanding what was the legacy of the indigenous here, even in America. So in the Gullah Geechee community, I would have to say that, coming into the Rastafari perspective was pretty much the fullness of the Gullah Geechee community's mission and goal. The Gullah Geechee community as a separation had a lot of traditions that many people don't know about. I always tell people about, they used to have a baptismal process where they would dress in all white, go down to the river, wasn't inside a building, and they would make the children who were being baptized, they would go stand under a tree, like the sacred, what they call it, sacred groves. And the children would be gone through a purification process for 7 days, wouldn't be able to do nothing, no talk to nobody. They would go through a purification process. And they would do this to see who was the seer, which one of the children would be the one with the vision, who would be the seer. So that just tells you, like, we have traditions and ways that have been lost, and kind of, the communities later on wanted to fit in, let go of many of those ways. So this is kind of how the tradition of following Rastafari into the mysticism and into the science, and learning that there was a lot more to the science than was being revealed. Even in our community, we had some elders that stayed on the waters way back in the day, and they had locks. So, this, and I always remember Gussie, one of our elders, he was a strong elder. And Gussie would say, boy, I know who you is, boy. Boy, I see them things on your head, boy. I know who you is. So it would make me then say, I have to fully know who I am if the elder came to me. So that's kind of how the journey kept growing and growing. Yes, sir.
Now, Gullah Geechee are straight up Africans, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
Tell them why.
Well, in our tradition, like with my grandfather, they claim to be boat builders, but their legacy comes from Aksum. They are part of the Aksumite kingdoms. They are part of the ancient Africans that traveled. Now, you have to understand when we say this, that there's two groups in here. You've got a group of ancient Africans that are here in the Americas on the islands. You can study the story of Hernando de Soto and find out how they were capturing them and making them the slaves. Now, if we can go through the stories of our history and learn that there are many voyages here to the Americas. We would be crazy to say that we built boats and we never traveled. The Europeans came behind us, built boats behind us, but they traveled the world and we didn't. They found boats on side of the pyramids. So, you know, it's like illogical to even try to have a concept that we didn't travel the world. So even the history shows that in Peru, many of the people that were in Peru were of the Axumite, the Canaanites, the Meroites, were travelers from Africa into the Americas. So when our so-called Christopher Columbus eras come in, you know, they were, you know, it was a long voyage to travel all the way back to Africa and try to grab someone. But if you could have run around in the islands and grabbed some of those that Africans that are already here, it made sense. So, and in that process, this is where the confusion also comes in. We have to remember in North Africa, like when you talk about 1492 with Iberia or with Spain, you had all of these Moorish Jews, Moorish Muslims that was in Spain. And so when that whole expedition of running the Moors out of Spain took place, the Moors were disfranchised, but a lot of them did take part in the North Africa process of slavery and moving around and came over to the Americas as fishermen and parts to help do the hunting. So this is why when we study the history, you got blacks over here, you got blacks here, you got blacks coming from Africa. So everybody starts saying, well, well, slavery ain't real or this and that, and they get confused because so many bits of the stories have been cut off. Like they don't want to tell that part of the story. Oh yeah, there were blacks part of the slave trade. Oh, we don't like to say that because our concept is Africa sold us as slaves. You got to think about this now. Africa came into the process and the African tribes came into the process later on. The first part of the process was with the Moors coming out of Spain. That's how come the Moors was able with the Stuarts of England, which Mary Stuart was the one that sent John Hawkins. That's where the John Hawkins boat came and Mary Stuart funded that. But that's who the Moors first ended up into treaty with, because many of them came over with the Spaniards and they were still being persecuted by Spain, remember? So they were breaking off. They were offshooting. But they were trying to take control in America. And that way, then they was able to negotiate back into the European lands that they had control also in this area. But everybody wants to make that as the Mansa Musa era, when Mansa Musa's brother comes over here, is how that treaty with Mary Stuart comes from a later on process from so many of them deserting on the Spaniards and then claiming a position here. And then when that process is going back and forth, that's when the Moors and the treaties, and then you accept in the United States because they had a prestige as breaking off from the Spaniards. And that's where the ranking and political establishments in America came in. But there were already Africans here. And then the Africans being brought over, their rights was not accepted because they weren't under what you would call the Treaty of Marrakesh, or considered under the Moorish status with the Moors. So it was a whole lot of confusion in what was going on. But that whole scenario didn't just start. You know, that's where we get kind of confused at. We want to make like the process of slavery just popped up. But we have to go back to all of the eras, back to the Hyksos and all of the in-warring fighting and the divisions that came in those that broke up an empire, because there was an empire that existed before that. Now that empire that existed before that, that's the importance. See, that's where even Rastafari come in, because you have to understand when that empire falls, Now there's all these offshoots of everything, and everybody imitating a reality starts to take precedent. And this opens the avenue for all of these different type of thrones and all of this. And then the goal of humanity gets lost, because you can go back right prior to that and you can see humanity was on a spiritual goal. Even in the eras of, if we go to the Greeks, where were they going? They were going to Egypt to acquire knowledge. The world was on this type of, this was the value, this was the currency. You know, material wasn't the currency. The currency was knowledge and wisdom and love, the divine truth. So in those areas, that's where the value was at. So even in those times, you could see how humanity was moving towards that, and then something happened. Then the concept of religion became taxation. It became political, it became power, and the people were uneducated. The masses were uneducated. The masses weren't being initiated no more. So a whole shift happened. Mm-hmm. Now, not to go too far, but to make that simple, there's a book by Drusilla Houston. It's called The Wonderful Kushite Empire. I say, if you're trying to get into your consciousness and people trying to wake up, I think that's one of the very best books to get. Because when you read The Wonderful Ethiopian Kushite Empire, it explains to you, like, you know, people will say Ethiopia and we think of the state Ethiopia, that's in Africa, the nation. But the Ethiopian Kushite Empire expanded into so many different areas, expanded in so many different lands, expanded all the way into the Americas. And so when we start thinking about that, we have to think that that was what was controlling the mindset of the planet when this planet was moving in this spiritual, this essence. And through that, you can trace in every place what's called like a king priest, a royal priesthood. So you wasn't supposed to be a leader unless you had some spiritual alignment. You know, in Kemet, you put the Uraeus on the crown. So that meant that you went through your initiation for that spiritualness. So all throughout the planet, we can track this. And we can trace this in Kushite concepts. Now, when that starts to disintegrate, and you can watch history where you can see where the Kushite rulership changes. And then after that, there's that influx. So, you know, when people kind of just miss that, that's where when we say, well, as Rasta, we say the order of Melchizedek, kingly priestly order. But what would that mean in the concept? Oh man, and Rastas, they still with the Bible. They confused. It meant some King James, and you know, so that's what people say. We confused. But then if you don't know the story, then you don't know what we're saying. Mm-hmm. You have the visualization of what's being said from where your essence of knowledge is at. But our essence of knowledge looks at a whole fullness of a story. Like the essence of just saying Nazarene, the vow of the Nazarite. Most people leave that to the book of Numbers 6. But you can take the vow of the Nazarite and you can trace it throughout all of most of the Middle East. You can trace it into Kemet. You can trace it all into the Samaria area. And you can actually trace where the kings placed the title on them. Now that vow also has a metaphysical as well as a physical reality, because that vow also means the anointing. So the anointing is not just the hair. The anointing is the science of the third eye. The anointing is going through that process of when, you know, that's why in the Bible, most of the science of the holidays are based on lunar sciences, right? Because they're talking about pineal science. So when the pineal and the pituitary operate together, when the pineal and the pituitary, the ma and the son, the mason, the true mason, when the mother and the son, the ma son, the builder, when that builder is activated in us to build this temple, So this is a science of a temple. So, you know, in the vow of Nazarite, most people don't get that. They just think it's a growing of the hair in this biblical statement, but they don't understand, and it's an alignment for the temple now. So when the pineal and the pituitary go into an operation, they release a golden substance into the spinal column. That is to do electrification in the body. Works with the Tibetan monks and the Buddhists called the 72,000 nodes that go throughout our body, our circuitry. So when that is electrified through that anointing, that's the anointing. But this is where it's so important what you teach, the vegan, because our ancestors knew when this anointing takes place, if you're not alkaline in your body, if you're not eating a certain way, if your hormones are not balanced, your acidic nature will destroy the anointed oil that you are sending to do the regenerative process in your body. So for you to go through the regenerative process, you had to know how to deal with the temple. That was the Masun. So we were temple keepers, keepers of the sacred temple. So this was our science. So now when you put it in biblical terms, it starts to lose its way. But you could pull it all the way from biblical terms all the way back into Kemet. How could we pull it back into Kemet? We pull it back into Kemet by just the story of Moses. The story of Moses. And I'm gonna hit this on two levels, and I know it's something else you wanted to ask me about. So I'll make it on this. On the story of Moses in the Bible, even the Jews tell you that's a mythological story. Why? Because they explain to you there was no Pharaoh that died in the Red Sea. When you track the time period for Moses, it comes into the 18th dynasty period. Now, when you study the pharaohs and the leaders of the 18th dynasty, you can't track that history of Moses in it. But you can track it with one character there, Ahmoses. Because Ahmoses does one thing that is exactly like Moses. He travels down to Ethiopia and he marries the Ethiopian woman. When we study that history and learn that, right? Because it's a little bit more, because it comes into understanding from the Ethiopian religious perspective. Melchizedek is a lineage. It's different than Israel. It's different than Abraham. But Melchizedek is already blessed by the Most High God when he meets Abraham.
Right.
So the Israelite or Abraham don't have no religion now. Abraham is not in no process yet, but he helps Melchizedek's family in a war. And he's blessed and he's awarded rights to a land and to come into this land if he keeps the ways of the kingly priestly order. But this Melchizedek represents a black lineage. It represents the Ethiopian Cushite lineage. It could never be worded or changed in any way, because when they deal with Melchizedek as the king of Salem, he comes from the Canaanite land. So they know that he is a Cushite or a Hamitic. So when you go through those, understanding those lineages, if someone is trying to take a story and then place themselves in a story, to take a position of power, they have to place it on a certain element to where they can remove that which will keep them blocked out. So on the story is we have the wandering, who are part of our lineage, because we know that Nimrod went up into Acadia, into Akkad, right? We know that that's a story of a Cushite, Hamitic, going up into the Sumer area. So this would be, if he creates Akkad or Acadia, and this becomes the empire of Nimrod, then that means that lineage that Abraham would be out of would be the Nimrod lineage. But what happened to the Nimrod lineage up there? So when they come back down, there's a whole change in the reality of what's been happening. There's been wars, there's been other stuff. So they're fleeing a war. That's why the book of Jasher or the book of Yasher is so important, because it tells you there's another government coming into power in that area. So it tells you one group is fleeing, but there's another group pursuing. So you have two groups here. So in the history, when the European tells us, they'll try to take this first group that's fleeing and they'll mix the Hebrew, somebody say Hebrew, with the Hyksos in a certain sense. But when we study the Hyksos and the Hurarians, we find that they have already been invaded and overtaken. Everywhere those who came out of the caves, when they were coming out of these caves, coming down back out of the caves, everywhere they invaded, they took over and they grabbed the women. The birthing changed over years in certain areas. So when you're coming down from the Hurarian, the Hyksos area coming down, that would be the Abraham or the Abraham lineage fleeing. They're fleeing from something that's coming, but they're part of a lineage that's down south, which we'd say would be Kemet, but they have been gone, so they have to be married back in. So the story tells you that Joseph marries the high priest daughter, Asenath. This is where the whole Bible story gets confusing, because when you study this, now you got to really go back and read the book of Asenath. You got to go back and read who is Asenath, because Asenath got some mythical things that tell you about the bumblebees and the honey, but most people have never read those books and those stories. So you really don't get who Asenath is until you go study the symbolism that's associated with her. Now, when you get the symbolism that's associated with her, it starts to come back into, it doesn't line up yet, because most of the time we miss it. So this lineage comes down, they have to marry back in. They marry to the high priest, to the daughter of the high priest Asenath, and Asenath becomes the lineage of Joseph, who produces two children, Ephraim and Manasseh. Two children, Ephraim and Manasseh. Now, when you look at this, also Moses marries an Ethiopian and he produces two children. So you got these lineages here, but it's not really being made clear. What we call this is the Joseph key, because the Joseph key is important, because when you study the Joseph key, it's science and history being mixed. All right, because Jacob comes, and Jacob, who becomes Israel, right? Jacob becomes Israel, and Jacob lays his hand on Joseph's second born, Ephraim. And so they tell you in the story, they say, why would Jacob put it? Why did Jacob bless the second born instead of the firstborn? So you got to understand, this is a code and it's a science here being stated, but it's a historical key being given to you. So when the hand is placed on Ephraim, most people miss this. So let's go back, because we're gonna line it all the way up so we can understand it. When we deal with the Joseph story, the Joseph key, it comes where in Exodus they say there came a Pharaoh who knew not Joseph.
Right.
That's the important thing. There came a Pharaoh who knew not Joseph, but Joseph had just saved all of Egypt from famine. And through his prophecy and things, so when his father died, all of Egypt did what? They mourned for Joseph's father, Jacob, for 70 days. That's a Kemetic ritual, 70-day mourning process. So they did a Kemetic ritual. They mourned for his father 70 days, all of Egypt. Then the next chapter, or coming out of that book right after that, it tells you now there's a Pharaoh who knows not Joseph. So Exodus 1 verse 8 explains to you that there's a new rulership in power at that time. A new rulership has come into power. And because me and you know, if there's a leader and we ask the leader about James Brown and he's the president of the United States, he said, I don't know no James Brown. We got to ask him, well, where you been at all these years? Because everybody know James Brown. You must be not from here.
Real talk.
Because if you the president of America, you don't know James Brown, something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So Joseph would be like a James Brown. How do you not know him unless you coming from foreign?
Mm-hmm.
So the statement is explaining to you that a foreign government takes over Egypt at this time. Joseph is the lineage is there. So they tell you in this process, this is the trickery of the European trickery, because at this stage here is where the mental discrepancy comes into where now everything in Africa is the people that's against God, because now you're talking about the Pharaoh in Egypt, and the people that's with God gonna run out of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the psychological divide right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Moses story. All of a sudden, those people in Africa, the Egypt, all of this is the cursed ones. And the people that flee away are the blessed ones.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like where you have to understand in the literature that something's going on, because now when we study the history at that time period, Ahmoses is running somebody out of Egypt. Now, who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy?
Right.
Because somebody invaded somebody's homeland. Somebody comes back up with the army after going down into Ethiopia, and they run somebody out. So now when they run somebody out, the story starts to change after this. So if Ahmoses runs the people out, here we go, because that's where we come in. When Ahmoses runs the people out, Ahmoses sends his son, Amenhotep the first, to govern an area called Bashan, which later on would be called Jerusalem. The people in the area honor Amenhotep as a divine being. They deify him. And the builders, this is important, the master builders deify Amenhotep because of his architectural, he was gifted in the architect and he worked with the builders. All right, so if we talk about masonry, we start to figure some things out here.
Right.
So Amenhotep is deified, but he is put with his mother. Amenhotep's mother is Nefertari. But Nefertari has another name, beloved of Amun, which is Miriam. Miri, Amen, Mary. Okay, this gets important, because when we get to this point here, this is so important, because I always used to hear our divine brother Freeman L. You know, he used to always say the Quran is the correction of chronology. Most people don't get that. The Quran was a correction of chronology. Why was the Quran a correction of chronology? How? So when we read the Quran, if we go to cipher this now, we coming from the Bible, we're going to the Quran. But the Quran tells us something. It says Mary, the mother of Isa, Jesus, is the daughter of Amram. Now, you could go look this up online. You've got Muslim scholars trying to war with this because, you know, they say the Quran has no errors.
Right.
The Quran is a perfect book. So they're trying to figure out how could the Quran make this error of putting Mary, the mother of Jesus, in the time of Moses. How could the Quran do that? Not the Quran. The Quran is a perfect manuscript. So is this an error? Because they like, well, this must be the error. The writer must be meant it this way or this here. But if it's an error, then the Quran is not a perfect book.
Exactly.
If it's not an error, then the Quran is telling us a timetable. So the Quran places Mary as a daughter of Amram. Now, what makes this important is because the Quran says that Allah placed the nation of Amram above all other nations. But who is Amram? Amram, Hiram, Abraham. Who is Amram? Amram is the father of supposedly Moses. Very important. So how could Mary be in the time of Moses? Well, let's look at the cipher that's there. Mary, in the Christian concept, she goes with Joseph and Jesus. But the Quran is placing Mary in the time of Moses. And that means that Jesus would be in the time of Moses, Isa. So what happens is when we look at it, all of the things we've been studying, when we started first learning that, hold up. You know, you first get your first bit of knowledge, you say, well, Jesus, hold up. The Hebrew word for Jesus is Yahshua. So if you translate Yahshua from Yahshua to English, it goes to Joshua, not to Jesus.
That's right.
It goes to Joshua, not to Jesus.
That's right.
Oh, so hold up now, because we know where Joshua at, because Joshua with Moses.
Right.
Hold up. So if Moses is Akmoses, hold up, and Mary is Miriam or Mary, beloved of Ammon, but Akmoses went down into Ethiopia and he married Nefertari, who is Miriam, but Moses went down into Ethiopia and he married Zipporah. But Moses gives his power, he turns his authority over to Joshua to lead the people into the promised land. Well, when we study where Joshua was supposed to did all of his wars biblically, we find out that everywhere Joshua was supposed to win at, Amenhotep went. Now, how could Amenhotep be fighting a war in the same place as Joshua at the same time?
Right.
So now let's go to the Moors, because the Moors say, you know, in the Moor science temple, they say the adept's supposed to know the secret name of Jesus. What do the angels call Jesus? What's his secret name? You never hear him say that. The secret name of Jesus is Amenhotep the First. Moses was the father. Nefertari was the mother. And the sacred son was Amenhotep. That was the last time. Now listen to his name, Amenhotep, the hidden peace. Hidden peace. It's a science because you can't take on a name unless you possess the attribute. So the last time this science or this nature or this science was possessed in the black family was designated at this point. Now, when you look at it, you say, okay, so you got Amenhotep. So Amenhotep is Joshua. But that means Amenhotep is Yahshua. That means Amenhotep is Isa. So now when we look at Amenhotep, we got a whole nother thing now. We say, okay, hold up. Here we go. Jacob, Israel, placed his hand on Joseph's son, Ephraim. So Jacob was telling you the lineage is going through Ephraim. Now, let me tell you how it goes. In 1 Chronicles 5, I've seen Rastas pull their hair out because of this. I've challenged some and I said, listen, I understand about Judah, But the Bible is a code and it is a birth record. And you have to know how to trace the birth record in it. Then you will really understand where it's taking you. So now, when you do this birth record, you check in First Chronicles, First Chronicles chapter 5. It says that the lineage goes to Joseph's sons. The birthright goes to the sons of Joseph. Not to Judah, but to Joseph. Oh, why? So when Jacob placed his hand on Ephraim, when you trace the Ephraim lineage, the Ephraimite lineage, and in the metaphysics, Ephraim is Hiram. Hiram Abith, Ephraim. So Ephraim is Hiram, meaning it was telling you that this lineage, the master builder, because remember now, this is science. See, because some people think when we talking as Rasta, we be on some simplistic, but we talking science, meaning that if the measurements of a man is the measurements of an angel, there were groups of people who still had the operative pineal gland, who carried the pearl, who were the carriers of the seed, and they were handing this genetical lineage down, meaning those who carried the measurement still were possessors of it, and they were trained to be keepers of that way, and they were handing the lineage down. So the birth record traces the lineage. So when the Europeans, Alexander the Great's library, the Ptolemaic dynasty, after Alexander, Ptolemaic, when Ptolemaic and the Seleucid dynasty took over Alexander's thing, they took all of the scrolls, and they're the ones that put the 70 priests together. That's with the Septuagint. The Septuagint. So the Septuagint represents the 70 priests. So the 70 priests were Egyptian priests who had to come together and put the scrolls together to make the biblical Pentecost or whatever they want to. Some people say there's only one Pentecost, but the Samaritans have a different Pentecost. Most people don't know that. But when you go to the Samaritans, that's the key, because that goes back into the Canaanite. That's where we're going to go at with it. So when you understand that they took this, now the priest took it and they wrote the birthright in the scripture still. European, he's savage. He just want them to make the story where it can put him in there. Priests know he don't understand codes. This is why later on they had to come into the orders and learn the dogma so that they could learn the symbolism to decode what they thought they had. That's why you had so many church divisions, because each one of them knew, I know you stealing the scripture, and I'm going to make my own decision on what this should be said. That's what the divides in the church. That's what the wars was. So when you get to this Joseph key and you see that Joseph, Ephraim, Jacob places his hand on Ephraim. When you trace the lineage Ephraim, you find out that Joshua is an Ephraimite. So that means Joshua is a son of Joseph. Is not Jesus the son of Joseph? They say they called him a carpenter, but when you study the words, you find out it wasn't a carpenter, it was a master builder. So this was a title. You can't say you're a master builder. So this was a decree on what was being said in there. Many books out there now, Europeans exposing it. Hiram Key, Jesus the last Pharaoh. So when you get to this Moses story, now you start to realize, hold up. In Islam, Moses traveled with Al-Qadir down to Ethiopia. But who is Al-Qadir? You'll hear that Al-Qadir has many attributes. They call Al-Qadir the Green Man. When you start studying the Green Man, and it's going to take you to Osiris, it's going to take you something. But Al-Qadir is Melchizedek, representing the kingly priestly order. The two pillars. When you go through the two pillars, you're going into the land of the gods. Remember, Upper and Lower Egypt was when you come through those two pillars, you enter into the land of Put, the land of the gods. So we designed our temples based on how our land was viewed, how we viewed the heavens, because we knew we were in a great temple. So our science was always that. So now when you see that this Joseph key, you say, hold up. So if Akhmoses is Moses and his son Amenhotep really represents the Isa or the Jesus. Now, when we trace this, how do we follow this? Because later on in your Christian literature, the Ahmosis family becomes known because Amenhotep goes up to the Jerusalem area, and the people who followed Amenhotep, who followed Ahmosis, were later on called Ahmosians. Ahmosians. But later on, because of the European, the tongue and the language, the Ahmosians became Ahmosians. So you got Hasmoneans. The Hasmonean dynasty was actually an extension of the 18th dynasty, the rulership. But we all know after the 18th dynasty, Horeb of the 19th dynasty, because of the mixed breeds that came from the Hyksos, they started letting mixed breeds get into the throne in Egypt, and you had this great divide, and the priesthoods was divided from the past. So when it comes down to Ahmosis in them, after Ahmosis' time, the 19th dynasty broke the lineage up. So those that was in the Jerusalem area still had the original ways of the old ways, but below them in Egypt, the whole Egypt empire stunned fall because of the mixed breed, the bad leadership and everything. So when Akhenaten came on the scene, Akhenaten was trying to clean it up because he said, look, we divided by too many priesthoods, and all of them think because of the old ways, when the Hyksos was here, it was ever priest could act like he had the most, they could have paid the taxes to keep their temple from being destroyed by the Petonius dynasty, by all of them. So this is how the priesthoods got corrupted. So when Akhenaten was he came and said, well, we're going to go back to Aton. That was the Ethiopian, that was his mother from Ethiopia. That was the deity from Ethiopia that Akhenaten's mother had, Aton. And it was the oneness. So it wasn't that he was eliminating all of the concepts. He was trying to end the division between the priesthood. But the priests were so used to their political powers and this and that the priesthood operated against Akhenaten. So Akhenaten then had to flee to Arabia, to the outskirts, him and his priest. So his lineage stayed there. His lineage then became Amina. Who is Amina? Amina is the Prophet Muhammad's grandmother. His lineage is part of that Kushite Ethiopian empire. Remember, Akhenaten's mother was from Ethiopia, the Aten. So there was a whole lot of connections, but because we want to be religious and divided, we miss it. So now when we start understanding this Hasmonean, now we understand, okay, there's a division because you got people all up in here who came from the Hyksos time. So now that the throne's been trying to take your power back, you still got a group here and a group here. And we missed it. You know, we missed the science, because the science is woven in with the history that teaches you how to track the pearl. That's why the Kibra Nagas or Cobra Nagas, Cobra Kings, Serpent Kings, the Uraeus Kings, the Glory of Kings is teaching you of old lineages. And they show you, because when most people read the Kibra Nagas, they say, hold up, why would they say they got family in Rome? Why would they put, hold up, what's going on? Because then when you start talking about this Carthage lineage, the Etruscans, which people say the Greeks, but the Greeks come from the Etruscans when the Etruscans was black.
Right.
The Carthaginians was black. So the arena in which we are talking about is kind of, it's kind of people been blind by religion that we don't really see it. So when we get to this so-called era to understand it, Melchizedek is a holy royal priesthood. That's part of the Kemetic orders. That's why they tell you it was more pyramids in Sudan, more pyramids down in Sudan and Ethiopia than up in Egypt. And they tell you that Osiris rose up from Ethiopia and created Egypt as a colony, and created the colony in India,
right,
and created a colony in Sumer. So that's why people put Osiris or Asar with Nimrod as well. So they're telling you that this is tracking a lineage of the Kushite Empire going into these areas. So when we hear the story of Melchizedek meeting Abraham, we know that there was broken off lineages that weren't rightly in the way. And there were those that had the way. And when they met the other ones, they tried to teach them, but they didn't stay in the way. That's why the whole book of the Bible is Israel violating the ways and going through hell and violating, going through wars, attacking people that they weren't supposed to attack, but sometimes they wrote about it like they were supposed to attack. But all of along, when you follow the bloodlines, they're all marrying Canaanite women, Cushite women. Then when it comes down, and I tell people this, when it comes down to the David and Solomon, this is how Rasta come in. When it comes down to the David and Solomon, see, David and Solomon show you that there were two lineages, but when people read it, they don't see it. In the David and Solomon story, you learn about the priest Abiathar, and the priest Zadok. Zadok represents the Canaanite, Cushite lineage, and Abiathar was representing the Abraham, or the Israel or Hebrew, right? Mm-hmm. What happens is Abiathar violates and he is removed from high priest, but Zadok is allowed to be the high priest. Why would Solomon place, now you know how sacred the temple is. So if this person is not a Levite, how could they have the right to operate as the high priest unless they're the ones that taught you high priest? Because when we deal with the story, we go to Jethro, the Ethiopian, the Midianite, teaching Moses, the priesthood. We go to Melchizedek, teaching Abraham the priesthood. So all of along throughout the whole scripture is the Cushite lineage teaching the science of spirituality and the connection of God and trying to teach civilization to those that they came in contact with. But in the end, those that they taught to were more concerned with the political power, the ties, the taxes. And they ended up after years. That's why when I put a video out too as well, where I show you that after Abraham's death, you go through where they explain to you certain of his children kept the way. And one of the last ones that kept the way was Joseph. All of the ones that kept the way and honored the Melchizedek, the Canaanite lineages, they married Canaanite women. That was part of treaty. That's always been part of treaty. Marriage is treaty. This is how we do our unification. But now you have political power because you're married into this area. Same thing in America with the chiefs. Mm-hmm. Europeans came over as fur traders. The indigenous don't know no better because they thinking it's love. And if we're going to do business, we're going to enter into a treaty. Marry one of my daughters. This is how we enter into a treaty. Now you got a European who has lineage claim because he's married his daughter and their bloodline becomes a tribal position. So that's why when you look at a lot of the Indians, you say, damn, how do Indians go from dark to all this? And you say, what? Because there was marriage unification. This is how we always did treaty. Exactly. No treaty with no paper. Exactly. Treaty was marriage.
Exactly.
So in those times, this is still how we were doing. So when we did the marriage, now somebody can claim right into a blood lineage. Mm-hmm. But then the rightful keepers of the way are looking at them saying, hold up, y'all ain't doing right. But all they know is war now because they're going to take over for the position. Mm-hmm. So now when we get to this story, this is how it folds in. Because everywhere in the scripture, it tells you that you have to come through the order of Melchizedek. Even Jesus has to come through the order of Melchizedek. Abraham, all of them had to deal with the order of Melchizedek. So now when we study from Ethiopia, the Dejan Shoah, when we look at the scroll of the Dejan Shoah and we find out that Melchizedek has a blood lineage, and that his son, Ethel, who later on is called Ethiop or Ethiopia, because where he lived near Lake Tana, the people became known as Ethiopians. Mm-hmm. So this is the blood lineage of Melchizedek. So we look at Melchizedek's lineage and we tracking it through now. Okay, so Melchizedek got a blood lineage in. His family was here. But the way they tell us, they think Melchizedek like a ghost, like a spirit. He comes and then he gone. But when they read the scrolls of the Nazarenes, they seen that the Nazarenes, only thing they talked about was Melchizedek. When they read the scrolls of the Essenes, they said the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Qumran said, only thing they found out was the people talked about Melchizedek. So in the ancient days, everybody knew that the key to the royalship or the key to authority was through Melchizedek.
Right.
So Melchizedek's lineage was here, but we don't see it. So now when we come to the David story, David messes with the woman named Bathsheba. Bathsheba is a Jebusite, a Canaanite, but actually she's a Zadok. So she's a part of the lineage of Melchizedek. So now that places Solomon back onto the lineage of Melchizedek. But we didn't see it. We didn't understand it. So it looked like it was one lineage that was on the throne, but actually another lineage that always been the key. So what was Melchizedek's prophecy? Melchizedek prophesied, that's why he blessed Abraham, and he said that his seed would rise up in Abraham. So protect Abraham. So it's like Melchizedek seeing it, said, look, these people coming, but my seed gonna survive and they're gonna rise back up and they're gonna take their position right through this, and we're gonna get our position back. So now when you understand this story, it changes now, because now when the Balaam or Balaam and them, when people were told to curse them, they said, no, I can't curse them because the Lord has blessed them. Who the Lord has blessed, no man can curse. I ain't supposed to curse them. And when you find out that the Moabites were part of the Melchizedek lineage, you find out that this was Abraham's family fighting with Melchizedek's kids, the Edomite, the fighting with their kids in these areas, with his kids. Then you start to look at this, go all the way down. You say, okay, so now if David messed with Bathsheba, and then Solomon then put Zadok on the throne, this is the Melchizedek lineage all the way in power. Then this lineage, according to the Keeper Nagas, goes back to Ethiopia.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the Ethiopia. So now we understand that when His Imperial Majesty comes onto the throne, and His Majesty says, look, Abyssinia, that's an adjective of our nature. We are children of the abyss, of the primordial waters, of Nun. We are children of the mother, the great mother. So Abyssinia is not us. The name of this place is Ethiopia. So Ethiopia, when it was changed to Ethiopia, His Majesty was placing the Melchizedek order back on the position of the throne. And this is where it explains that you must come through the order of Melchizedek. So His Majesty was then coming through the order of Melchizedek, which is the Canaanite Cushite lineage that is a part of Kemet. Even in this, we find out that Melchizedek, Akin Bioku has a book called Jesusism, and he traces in Yoruba that Orumelia, the prophet of Yoruba, who is the bringer of divination, is Melchizedek. So in Africa, which we learn because Melchizedek is divination science. How do we know that? The Essenes, the Nazarenes all had a divination, which is called a geomnesy. So even though everybody run into the Yoruba and they think, oh, I'm going to go to the priest and I'm going to get my reading and I'm going to do this. So we think voodoo. But it's not voodoo, it's geomnesy, what people are running to for readings. But when you find out the Nazarenes had geomnesy, Balaam, who can be traced directly back to Melchizedek, is the one who prophesies to Israel that a coming of a star, which they then said was the coming of Christ. So it's not even an Israelite that gave the prophecy of the so-called Jesus. It was a child of Melchizedek.
Wow. So is this why they summons the priest from Egypt to put the crown on His Majesty's head?
Well, they did it in the Arabic. They subbed it from the. They did it. They were showing the unification because most people don't know that they did the whole prayer in different languages in the
Right.
Arabic and the Sumerians. What they call liturgy. But yes,
Because the guy was the Coptic. Now, what year were you born?
I'm born in 72.
1972. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, what was life like racially, between blacks and whites when you was growing up in that area? What was it like back then?
Well, I mean, you knew it was a separation. I mean, we fought our whole years through school. I mean, we went well before we went to our high school. Before I went to my high school, my uncles and them went, and they just integrated the school. So my uncles and them fought. My uncles and them used to say like they didn't even go to the bathroom by themselves because if you went to the bathroom by yourselves and a group of the white boys caught you, you was gonna have to fight. You know what I'm saying? Like it was for real. So even when we got to the school, it was still that same energy, still that same. If the black football player wouldn't get pushed, the white football player get pushed for the scholarship, and you could see it and you could realize that hold up, this ain't for us. Somebody ain't working for us,
Mm.
you know. And that's kind of some of the reasons that led me to the Ethiopian World Federation as well, you know.
Now, how old were you when you realized you were, black conscious and started growing dreadlocks? How old were you?
Oh, well, I've been growing locks since 1989.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually that was my second round. But I became aware, well, like I always say, when I grew up, the old men used to be cooking fish and cooking crab, and they used to be out and we used to go sit out by the fire at nighttime. And they would be talking about the history and speaking about things. And so we were given oral traditions then. So they made us aware. We even had where we went through initiations. Like I said, a lot of people don't know in the Gullah community, we have our own orders called pen societies. So, we had our taboos where you would get taken in the middle of the night into the woods and the old man would start initiating you in certain things, teaching you songs and telling you things. Just same thing as a Masonical order, but it was more on our time. We were taught different because we were taught that, certain things we couldn't say because we would say, I'm not a widow's son. Because in our understanding was if Mother Nature is a widow, then she is without spirit. So to say that the Mother Nature has lost her spirit, her husband, then we are in a dead world,
Wow.
Right.
Now tell the people about the lineage of Islam and Muhammad and that story there, because a lot
Right.
of people don't know about the black side of Islam. Tell them.
And that's another thing also with understanding that history with in Islam where they speak about Moses going with Al-Qadir with Melchizedek. And then when we get to studying the true history, in Islam it's called the Holy Aqlabate. When you'll hear some of the people will tell you that the prophet said, protect the Holy Aqlabate. But what is the Holy Aqlabate? He said, keep the Holy Aqlabate as though you keep the Quran. And the Holy Aqlabate was his lineage. So when we start studying the lineage of the prophet, as I said, his grandmother was Amina, Ethiopian. So then, even in Islam, they say they don't want to deal with the race. But when we understand it's Amina, then we start to look at it. Because remember, when the prophet announces that he's coming into prophethood, he asks, who will follow me? Everybody laughed at him. You coming in prophet. So when he said it the first time, the young boy Ali raised his hand. So the prophet said it again, said who would follow him? The people was laughing at him. He was telling he was called. And the young boy Ali was the only one raised his hand again. So the prophet was telling him to put his hand down. And then the prophet asked him again. And the young boy Ali raised his hand again. And the prophet Muhammad says that this will be his successor. So everyone laughs because this is a young kid. But all of us later on learned the story of how powerful Ali became, because Ali became like the warrior, you know. Man, he marries the Prophet Muhammad's daughter. And the Prophet Muhammad and Ali, the Prophet Muhammad's daughter and Ali have 2 sons. And this is where most of all of the Middle East, we hear the name Hassan and Hussein. You know, so why did people say, well, that's why they naming themselves Hassan and Hussein. Well, Hassan and Hussein produce children, and they have what is called the 9 grands or the grands of the Prophet Muhammad. And these 9 grandchildren of the Prophet Muhammad, all of them are slain by the same people that are in power with Islam right now. They knocked off, and I'm saying they knocked the black family off. They were chasing and knocking off the black family. Because you have a Turkish era and all of this coming in the mixed era, and then so this black lineage is being assassinated. But the last of the lineage, the 9th grandchild of the Prophet Muhammad from the Hassan and Hussein lineages, is the Mahdi. So you hear about in Islam, the Mahdi is like the Messiah. That's the Christ. So it explained that the Mahdi fled from being killed into Africa. But we always remember what the prophet had done, been told them, you know, the Ethiopians, don't you slay them, don't you go over there and do this, do nothing to them. But even after that warning later on, that was not heeded. But then we learned that the Mahdi flees into Africa. Well, that goes to the Yahudah. That goes into Hara, the Judah. So when we start looking at this story, we can see from Islam that the Islamic lineage from the Prophet Muhammad coming down into the Mahdi flees into Ethiopia. When we look at the story of Moses, and Moses is supposed to marrying the Ethiopian and the children, we have another lineage in Ethiopia. When we look at Solomon and Sheba, we pull another lineage into Ethiopia. All of the religious lines come right back there into Ethiopia. And the thing about it is, it all ends up in this place of Hara. And what is Selassie's, Selassie, I'm trying to say Selassie's grandfather's name. I can't call it right now. But when we get there to Hara, there's a lot of things we don't know about Hara. Hara is actually called Gaia, gay, with the word Gaia, earth. Hara or the Oromo in Hara are also, their real name is called Gullah.
Now, Muhammad's descendants, are they Shiite or Sunni?
Well, from the Ali lineage, they became the Shiites. And when they killed Hassan and Hussein, that's why they would say that the Shiites cut themselves. They would say that, oh, the Shiites, Astaghfirullah, they cut themselves in violation of things. But that's what the Shiite thing came from, is that the Hassan Hussein, I can't call which one, I believe it was Hussein, was killed while he was praying. So these attacks and how they would kill the Shiites then uphold what is called the lineage from Ali. The Sunni became those who came into power later on, and they were against the Shiites, but the Shiites were representing the lineage from the Prophet Muhammad's daughter and Ali.
Interesting. Now, as a young brother growing dreadlocks in the South, what has been your experience with Rasta from Jamaica?
Well, I've seen it where there've been those that want to say, Jamaica is where Rasta began. But once we started to talk and reason, I asked them, so you the first Nazarene? Because the Nazarenes is what you're actually following. And then when we talk about it, was His Majesty Jamaican or Ethiopian? You
Right.
know, so it became a Jamaican thing, and you know, in Jamaica they say the Prophet Howell
Right.
really brought the legacy, but the Prophet Howell was here in America working, and while he was here working in America, His Imperial Majesty had sent delegates here. And you know, everybody like talked about Shashamani. Oh, Shashamani, but that's Rasta. His Majesty gave Rasta land. No, listen. His Imperial Majesty sent delegates here in 1919, 1921, 1924, 1926, way before Shashamani. And he sent delegates here telling American blacks here that we are his people, that we are his family. Come back to Ethiopia. He will give us land, a home, car, and jobs, because he needed us to come back with the education and the things that we have received here and help him build Africa, because Africa was war torn. People had been fighting. They had warlords, had been still people was enslaved. He just broke slavery in Ethiopia. So, you know, he needed the educated minds to come from America and help build. So in 1919, His Majesty came. He had his delegates here. The brothers was coming. They had their royal garb on. So the Prophet Howell is working in New York. He's working around. He's seeing this all throughout Harlem. He's seeing everybody saying Ethiopia. All of the master teachers. Hubbard was teaching. What is it called? The Blind Society, the Blind Society out of New York, all of where Dr. Bear, everybody came out of, they came under the brother Herb, who was teaching all of them the Ethiopian fighting, and all of them was there till this brother got killed in New York. They threw him off a bridge. And this is when, like, all of our teachers were being educated for Black history, but His Majesty was coming here and he was sending delegates here. So imagine Howell being here and he's saying, darn, this African king from Africa, he's the Lion of Judah, and he's sending delegates for us to come back home and repatriate. So what does he do? But while he's here, I gotta say this, and many people don't know about this. Ethiopia has its own Masonical order that's older than the Lodge in England, and it's called the Star of Ethiopia, the Star of Ethiopia, the Star Order. So the Star Order, one of the head leaders of the Star Order of Ethiopia was actually in Harlem. This is who Howell met. So Howell was initiated in certain things. So this is how Howell comes into the mysticism and into the Masonical teachings and using certain things. So when he goes back to Jamaica, he's bringing all of this and he's telling them about the king and about repatriation and everything, but he's learned it here in America. So those in America were leaving and going to Ethiopia to be pilots and going to Ethiopia to do work. So we had already started the movement of accepting His Imperial Majesty. And as I say, and I always will say, that if we understand UCC, Uniform Commercial Codes, the Pope, 1492, placed the lien on the entire planet. He placed the lien on all of our bodies, made us commodities of them. So every jurisdiction that was set up was able to use us as commodities under the authority of the Pope. So if you file in UCC forms and you just file into the United States and this and that, you still haven't removed the lien that the Pope placed on you. Because the Pope, you know, when they say an instrument is given authority, you have to prove the authority of the instrument. And so when the European nations accepted the doctrine of discovery, they accepted the instrument had authority. What was the authority? It was the primacy of Peter, meaning that the Pope claimed that he had authority to do whatever he wanted, to tell the Europeans to take over all of the lands, because he represented the throne of God on earth. And because he was the highest throne and nobody could trump him. So when the Pope did this, nobody was able to counter the claim. So this claim was accepted, and it was the jurisdiction that has run this planet all of this time until 1930, November the 2nd.
Right.
when the throne of David, of the King of Kings, the Lion of Judah. So all of the European nations, they were carving out Africa, but they had to go to Ethiopia and bow down.
Right.
Because there was a higher claim of authority before them.
Right.
So this has all been like, if you understand the international political games of power and authority, every royal family there is claimed biblical lineage. From England, all of them, from Charlemagne, all of these royal European families all claimed authority from a biblical lineage.
Right.
They were playing the game of authority from that old time that was mixed up in the politics and the wars. And when the things went on, they still used that as a power of political authority. This is why the Bible was so important, because it was birth record argument. It wasn't a religious book as we know, but it was religious in a sense, but it was birth record. So when we learn how to decode the birth record, then we're able to track the birth line. So and then we're able to show it. Go ahead.
So this is why when His Majesty took over power from the Pope, this is why the Pope sent Mussolini in there, right?
They had to. And the Pope and Mussolini has a statement that is documented. Mussolini says, "I'm going to take God off his throne." Mussolini says this because he understood the mission was we claiming the godly throne here. If he has the godly throne there, we have to remove that, or else our whole jurisdiction is done. So now when His Majesty comes on the scene, His Majesty sends out the claim. He says, all of you are under me. I am the king of all black people around the world, Negroes, even in America. I am your king.
In Chicago. Yeah, in Chicago. Right. Yes.
So when he's saying this, most people don't get it. They want to think, oh, I ain't no Rasta, this religion. No, this is uniform commercial codes. That means His Majesty was then countering the Pope's claim of authority over the people and saying the people are under this throne and they do have biblical recognition. You cannot claim them as savages. You cannot claim authority over them. Their authority is protected by this throne. Now you can't trump this throne. So now the only thing we were supposed to do at that stage was accept for value what His Imperial Majesty had given us. But instead, most people rejected it, found reasons based on religion and this and that. And even the Rasta missed what His Majesty did, because His Majesty not only did that, but he put us in the Constitution of Ethiopia.
Right.
Nationality. His Majesty gave us nationality. He put us in the Constitution. You can't get no better than that. You know?
What advice do you have for Rasta worldwide? If all Rasta was watching you now, what would you tell us all?
His Majesty brought us liberation from under the Pope. And His Majesty understood that all of these governments and everything what was going on was going to be a weaponized tool against us. So His Majesty, in reclaiming us, also ordained a constitution to guide and protect us and for us to use as a governmental vehicle. He created the Ethiopian World Federation for our advancement. But instead of those who wanted to follow what His Majesty gave us, many people broke off because they didn't, and they created different orders, different tribal orders. Bobo, Nyabingi, all of them came out of the Ethiopian World Federation, and everybody broke away instead of coming back to unity. And His Majesty warned us of tribalism. So what I would say is, come back to your government and understand that your government has powers and benefits under international law. We are the one and only organization that can bring economical sanctions to the United States, to the UK, because His Majesty issued treaties in these lands. And in these lands, we operate as the governmental body that was ordained by His throne. So we are the one and only body that actually has the political power, if we unify, to bring change.
Now, what advice do you have for Black people in America?
The same thing with the Rasta is that the Ethiopian World Federation, the preamble says, we, the Black peoples of the world. So it's recognizing that there are many different types of Black people, Chinese Black people, Mexican Black people, but there are Black peoples of the world. And so His Majesty has called all of us under this jurisdiction. Remember, every government that you deal with is a corporation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you come under this, which you would say, oh, this is a corporation, but read the Montevideo Convention and understand under treaty rights, this is a state, this is a nation. So the Ethiopian World Federation, because we've signed a treaty as well with the Lakota tribe, the indigenous nations, and we've done that to start building a platform for our liberation. You know, you hear a lot of brothers and sisters say, well, I don't know nothing about Africa. I ain't going to Africa. Well, imagine this. Just think about this. We've signed a treaty with the Lakota tribe. And our brothers and sisters, we've built a relationship. Now, we paying taxes to the United States government every day. But if you left from under the United States government and went under the authority of a tribal government, where the old ways are there, where you can move up in authority, you could become chief. You might even marry one of the chief's daughters, and you might change the whole paradigm. But under the indigenous governments, it's almost it's the same way as we anciently operated. So wouldn't we rather want to be under a government that would see us in our spiritual reality, that would see us in a certain level? And then if we paid taxes, so if all of a sudden millions of brothers and sisters could walk on a tribal reservation and receive tribal citizenship under the brotherhood, and then they could walk from up under this government, pay taxes to their government, and be free. See, those are the things we work on. And not only that, you know, even though Biden just sent the news out, but we fought for Rastafari exemption. Right now, we had the DEA where we're operating to get our foreign trade zone so that we would be able to import and export cannabis from Jamaica into America or ship from America to Jamaica. And a foreign trade zone allows us to go through past some custom things and setting them up on tribal lands to do major trade, because we have to set up commerce.
Right.
We've also partnered with Queen Sheba of the African Federation. Most blacks today don't even know that there is a Queen Sheba on the scene. Queen Sheba III. Her and the Maroons came together. They created a currency for the diaspora called the Lumi. And you'll hear me say, brother, if we ever think about liberation, we know that infrastructure is key. And one thing that we watched with Africa, because Africa didn't control its currency, it didn't own the electric companies, even though these Europeans gave them independence, they left out still owning the banks. They still owned the mining companies. They had still owned all of the infrastructure. And Africa was using French currency, American currency. So still in their independence, they weren't independent. So now Africa has realized that it has to really build the infrastructure for independence, and it's built its own currency. Africa now with the Lumi is the only currency in the world that is non-fiat. It is the only currency backed by gold and backed by natural resources, really. So this fiat currencies, these cryptos we've been chasing, all of that's about to fade out, because as Africa gains its power, you're going to watch this. They're going to come to the point to where the only currency that they will use in trade will be Lumi. Then all of the Chinese, the British, and American will all have to buy into that currency to use it as a trading currency. And the value of that currency will rise. And Africa will come from a poverty stone on position to the richest country in the world. These Europeans see this right now. They see this. So they try to keep us not focused, not to see how we should be planning to unify in these efforts. there is billions of dollars being exchanged right now. Africa has the funds and they're wanting to set up business with us and everything. Ghana gave us 100,000 acres of land. That's 2 cities to develop. Do we sitting here with America and we thinking, but we have to understand Africa is our power. Africa gives us the power to move. And we have to learn to unite with that. And I had got upset the other day with the brother Shabazz Rahim, because he told me, you know, I understand foundational Black America, but I don't understand division, because from Marcus Garvey, from everyone we've learned that division don't work for us. We can't be divided from Africa, from the Caribbean, from Haiti, and from everybody, and then we want to cause the impact that we need. We have learned that by being by ourselves, it gives us no power. What's the benefit? Chinese can trade with Chinese, and that gives them the optimal economical power in America. Japanese could do the same. We got African car companies that have developed African cars. Why ain't no Blacks here got no African car lot dealership just like Kia and all of them over here? Why are we not united with the African car developers and having cars and stuff over here too? You know?
Good question. Now, here's the thing. Now, if you look in Africa, you look in the Caribbean, and you look in America, there's division amongst the same people. So African Americans got tribalism, Africans got tribalism, the Caribbean got tribalism. Now, and then there's tribalism between the different groups. So with small tribalism and big tribalism, how can we unite everybody? Because we don't even get along where we live at. We got gang problems here, don't get along. So we can't take a bunch of gangs that don't get along and take them nowhere, because they're going to be fighting over there. In Africa, you got a lot of, you look at Ethiopia, all them wars they have. How can we unite everybody when we're divided where we at? Is there any type of process where we can begin to knock that down?
Well, let's look at this. Let's look at hip hop. Regardless of all those divisions you said, hip hop went in every one of those areas. Hip hop has a power in every one of those divisional areas. So yet, even though they're all divided and they got these small divisions, they all got a connection. So when we look at it, we say, well, okay, so this music, these people find a way to unite. And we remember when hip hop wasn't allowed on TV. Now it's in every commercial. So hip hop showed us how culture can cultivate and change. But are we thinking on a strategical matter of how to use our culture to strategically bring the change? Or are we letting other people strategically manipulate us in our cultural aspects, from the music to the films and stuff, that then change the frequency that stop us from becoming united, keeping us divided? Right. So when we start to look at that, we say, okay, so now we got to understand alchemy, because this is an alchemical process. So we got to learn to take this negative or whatever they're using for us, because it takes an equal force or a greater force to overcome a force. Right. So if you're using a culturalized mechanism to overcome me and my people, then I've got to alchemically take that same process and find a way, because I'm the master scientist, I'm the divine being. Right. So I should be able to take my alchemical processes, understanding through my divine, and transform it. Because it's just like everything that we do when we become conscious. When you become conscious, the way you eat rises to a higher level. The way you thought about sex rises to a higher level. So you transform lower ways into higher ways. So lower ways can be transformed into a higher way. It's just us to know the strategical movement alchemically. Now, me as an author and a filmmaker, that's what I do. That's the only reason I do books in film. You know, some people say, oh, I don't do it, because if I could do some Kanye stuff. I could do some hood stuff, and I could sell it and be, you know, in another realm. but I developed for a conscious development. So this is the seeds that we start to plant. So we can look at from right now, from 2019 when COVID hit. Before COVID, Black people didn't understand Black movements or organizations. Think about it now. Right before COVID, Black organizations weren't important. They weren't important. That's why they was all falling. The nation, the UNIA, the Rasta organization, everybody was divided and broke up. When COVID came, it gave us a common enemy. We had to fight the vaccination. We had to get exemptions. So then all of the organizations became important to the people. Then the people remembered why Black organizations was important.
Good
They
point.
remembered that. Now it was like, oh shit, because Black organizations here to protect us. Oh yeah, man, I need my exemption, bro. Boy, whatever y'all got me to do, boy, let me sign up. Boy, I'm on the job, boy, and
That's right.
They weren't there before. So now all of a sudden the average working person understood the meaning of the Black organization, and they were trying to think. And then when Dr. Sebi was the key, because people miss this, man. Dr. Sebi was the key, because prior to Dr. Sebi, everything this European did to us, they were successful in killing us.
That's right.
AIDS for our generations, for those that going 50 and above or whatever, with AIDS hit in our times, AIDS was a death sentence. They were our mental was either you gonna, but man, if you make it to 25 or 30, you did good.
Mm-hmm.
Because between AIDS, the prison, and the streets, the Black man wasn't supposed to make it. So all of the stuff that been molded for us, this is why the crack era was so important, because we were in a desperation. We had no win. We was on where it was straight up. Whatever we had to do, we was there because we wasn't winning. So the reality of the psyche of the youth then go to whatever, man. Man, look here, man. These people beating us. Y'all ain't got no answers. They done create AIDS. I don't know if I'm going to live to tomorrow, bro. I'm about to do this, whatever I got to do. So now the drug era has power because of the desperation of the mental. So now instead of the mentals developing for consciousness for this, the mentals is on strict survival and get to whatever. I'm trying to live before I die. So we go through this dead era where that's all we living for. And then all of a sudden, Dr. Sebi shows us that we could beat AIDS, that we could heal ourselves. All of a sudden, the divine intelligence became the currency again.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, this became important. Oh, we could beat this. We could heal ourselves. We never seen a victory against their plans. And all of a sudden now we got this teacher showing us, oh, okay, so it's the way we eat. Oh, they was defeated. Now common sense started kicking in. Now we said, okay, well, the way I was eating was beating me. Oh, so what? Now the consciousness starts to change, the shift. Now we know they knocked Dr. Sebi and all of these natural healers off right before COVID.
Sure did.
They knocked about 55 of them off right before COVID.
Sure did.
Then all of a sudden now when COVID hit, they're trying to implement the stage of fear. They're trying to put us back into that box. But the people had done caught a glimpse of something and they couldn't go back. They could only go forward and trying to figure this out now because they never had the ability to think that that we smart enough, we could heal ourselves. It was back now. And it started a triggering process. Now, when COVID comes as the common enemy, it forces the consciousness to now dig deeper than they ever did before. Then George Floyd, Black Lives Matter. So now it's triggering something. Oh, we're supposed to be on some other time. And now all of a sudden the mindsets are prepared. His Majesty made a statement. You can't want for a people what they don't want for themselves.
Whoa.
So when you said that question, I would say at the time in the past, the people didn't want this for themselves. So it was impossible to unite them. But at this time now, the divine movement, the divine intelligence, rules the planet, and all we have to do is keep that currency flowing, and the people are ready for the change now. It's a different frequency now.
That's deep. Now, that was a great lecture, brother. I'm going to tell you, you on top of something, and I'm going to tell all y'all young people watching me. See, this what it was like for me when I was coming up. I was around brothers like this. So conversations was heavy, and we used to have to learn how to listen. You don't argue with the brother, you listen. So it's called reasoning. So that was good that y'all was able to see how us ancients function, because the brother got a lot of knowledge. So you don't cut him off because you're going to miss something. So, brother, give us your last thoughts.
My last thoughts is always the foundation of life. And it's a mantra that I always say. I am that I am. I am love. I am life. I am light. I am liberation. I am that I am. God so loved that there became life. And through this, in this life, we find our light. And through that light, we find our liberation. Love, life, light, liberation. Everything in life should guide you in that level. When you find your true love, you open yourself up to life, you find your light, and everything should bring you to liberation. Nothing should box you in. Everything should set you free.
That's positive, brother, and I appreciate you. And you stay strong, my brother.
Yes, I give thanks. Bless it. All right, I hope y'all enjoyed that. It don't get no more powerful than that. That's Lazarus, and the brother, I had to get him over here. I'm following him on Instagram. I'm going to end up doing some work with him. We're going to be working together. And I just wanted you all to get an eighth of that knowledge right there, right? So that's the type of things going to be going on over here, right? And, that's how it's going to be rocking. And you get to see the art of the interview. You know what I'm saying? When I'm interviewing somebody, I don't got nothing to say. There ain't nothing to say. Let the knowledge come out. It's not always a contest. See what I'm saying? It's not nothing like that. So let the brother say what he got to say to the fullness. You know what I mean? And I figure, let me bring something to the community to try to take the community on a higher level, and go out here and get some knowledge that's not really getting they due. There's a lot of brothers and sisters out here that ain't getting no shine, that really got a lot to say. So, I wanted to really do something for the community and expand the knowledge. And I'm going to be doing this a lot. So if you have dreadlocks, I want you to contact me because I want to get my subscribers on here too. So, we're doing something different over here. So I'm going to be trying to get a lot of subscribers over here too. So hit me on Pharaoh Said That
on Instagram so I could, get you on an interview, get an interview from you. So if you got your dreadlocks on your head, I want you to be a part of this Roaring Lions. And also, we have a news channel that's going down. And I want, to get people to be a part of the news channel. You know what I'm saying? So if you get a chance, make sure you hit the link to This the News. Go over to This the News and subscribe. And follow that news channel because we need 1,000 subscribers over there for This the News because we're going to bring you news and information over here. All right. We want to really be about the work over here. So yeah, make sure you hit the subscribe button, right? And we need more subscribers on This the News. Make sure you hit the super chat, Cash App, make a donation. Some of the money goes to my moderators. And like I said, if you got dreadlocks, you're a Rasta of some type, you're a Hebrew Israelite, you're just a regular person that wear for a hairstyle or whatever, you Kemetic or whatever, you got locks on your head, I want you to be a part of Roaring Lions. So once again, contact me on Instagram at Pharaoh Said That or on Twitter at Pharaoh Said That so I can get you on Roaring Lions, right? So I need to get you on Roaring Lions. So yeah, I want to get you on Roaring Lions. So make sure you, hit the link. And we need some subscribers on This the News. Also, we want you on Roaring Lions. So if you got something to say, we'd like to get you over there for an interview. The interview topics are just random. Basically, I'm going to ask the questions. So the interview topics are going to be me asking you questions. You will have no idea what I'm going to ask you, G-Rock, but they're going to be questions that fit you for who you are. They're going to always be interesting questions to get the most out of the people at all times. And also, We want to also make sure that you understand the importance of uh, eating well. So also make sure you take care of yourself and eat correctly, because health is wealth. So it's very important to take care of your health. It's very important for you to eat right. So make sure you uh, get the easiest way to become a vegan, right? Hit the link in the description and make sure you get the easiest way to become a vegan so you can eat right and take care of yourself, because health is wealth. This will help you eat better, a nice process, slow process where you can take your time so you don't have to rush. You just take one step at a time. Don't try to go vegan overnight. Don't try to go plant-based overnight. Get the manual. It's not expensive. It's not a lot of pages. Open it up. Go to the first step. Clip it on your refrigerator. Take the first step. Don't take the next step until you're comfortable. Follow the instructions. This is a manual. So a manual, this is not a booklet. This is a manual. And a manual is a step-by-step process. So like if you buy a toy for your child, it's going to tell you first take it out the box. Okay, first put the axle. You buy your son a little truck or a little car to ride in. So first put the axle on, then put the left wheel, then put the right wheel. That's what this is. So you don't have to read it all the way through. You only got to read the step that you take it. And slowly, don't go throw all your food away. Go slow. Don't do like I did as a young vegan back in 79, 78, 79, where I threw all my fish away and had to go back and buy some more. Get this so you won't waste no food. And you can take your time. See, they don't tell you this. That's why you can't change the way you eat. They don't tell you. You can take your time and eat change slowly. All right? So www.veganintel.com.
Peace, health, and longevity. If you want to consume more plant-based foods, if you want to abstain from junk foods, if you want to consume fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and herbs, and avoid dead flesh, artificial flavors and colorings, sweeteners, anything that is unreal basically, purchase this particular manual, The Easiest Way to Become a Vegan by Pharaoh El-Aton, who has been a vegan 40 plus years. He will take you step by step on how to abstain from the junk foods, how to abstain from the dead flesh, the chicken, the turkey, the pork, beef, and all sorts of animal products. Purchase this particular manual, The Easiest Way to Become a Vegan, to eat more natural. Remember that the herbs are for the healing of the nations. Let food be your medicine and let medicine be your food. Consume of every fruit-bearing and herb-bearing tree. Unto you it shall be for meat. Purchase this particular manual, The Easiest Way to Become a Vegan by Pharaoh El-Aton. Peace, health, and longevity.
All right, all right. So before we go, do anyone have any questions? Anything you want to ask me? I can answer a couple of questions before we go. If you just got something in general you want to talk about, let me know before we out of here. And it's good to see you, Michael Lee. Always a pleasure. Good to see you, G-Ra. Christopher, Divine. Ben, James, good to see you, James. AB, Will of the Most High, good to see you, Tony Blaze. Red, good to see you, Dodge J, Reese, Latanya, Good to see you. Alexis, James McBride, good to see you. 2119, Ma, good to see you. Tanya, it's always a pleasure. David, it's good to see you. Braxton, good to see you. Always good to see you. Alexis, will of the Most High. David, it's good to see you. Afro Universe, it's a pleasure. My first month as a vegan, did I have an urge to eat meat? No, because I took the steps in my manual. And so that's why I'm telling you to get the manual, because these are the steps that I took. If you take these steps, Michael, you won't have the urge, because see, this manual, this is what I actually did to change the way I eat. It wasn't a manual. I just did it on my own. And then when I started going live, Michael, I told what I did in a live. But I've been going live. I've been making video. Well, it was a video. It wasn't even a live stream. I made a video called The Easiest Way to Become a Vegan. And, okay, I'm going to drop the link right now. And it's right under you, Ziki. And once I started going live, I kept telling people, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do. And I got tired of telling people over and over. So it hit me one day while I was live, I'm just going to write this down, right? So this was a real process I used to do, and I used to tell people, but once I was going live, I got tired of repeating it. So I went and blocked the video, and I wrote it down. And this works because this is designed for you not to go to the next step until you're comfortable with the last step. So first you quit pork. Don't try to quit beef until you absolutely don't want any pork. I don't care if it takes a month, 2 months, 6 months. I don't care how long it takes. Don't get off beef until you're sure you don't want pork anymore. And once you're sure you don't want pork no more and you're never going to eat pork, then get off beef. And once you get off beef, don't get off the next thing until you are sure that you don't ever want beef again. So let's say you got all the way up to fish, and you're eating fish and you fall off. If you fall off, what do? You just go back one step. You don't go all the way back to pork. You always go back to the last thing you quit. Then you stay there. Yes, it could be done in a year, but the main thing is for it to not be no time, G-Rock, because if you try to do it in a year, then what'll happen is you could fall off. So I'd rather you take a year and a half. I'd rather you take 2 years and never go backwards than to rush and go up and go back and rush and go up and go back. So take your time, because G-Rock, if you, okay, it's like this. This is the manual. First, you're going to do this page. Then you're going to do this page. Then you're going to do this page. By the time you did that, you're eating healthier. You're going to be eating healthier. This is when you're a vegan at the back. But you're going to be then ate healthy. When you get in the middle, you're going to be healthier than you were. So every time you're getting healthier, so don't rush to get to the end. Go slow. Okay, my last thing was fish, and I was on fish for a while, for months and months and months. Right? I was on fish. I was on McDonald's fish sandwiches and docks. I was on McDonald's. I went vegan off of McDonald's fish sandwiches and fries. So people say, well, that ain't healthy. It's healthier than McDonald's fish sandwiches, hamburgers, ribs, rib tips, and all that. I cut it down to just a fish sandwich. Before then, it was fish sandwiches, ribs, chicken. It was everything. So which one is better? Pork, beef, ribs, chicken, fish, or just the McDonald's fish sandwich? It ain't healthy, but it's healthier than all that other stuff. Because, always remember, y'all, it's not about what you're going to eat. It's about what you stop eating. So stop worrying about what you're going to eat and focus on what you stop eating. So get the manual and focus on what you're stopping. Don't focus on, don't focus on eating better. Focus on getting off of each thing one at a time.
Have you ever considered becoming a vegan but didn't know what steps to take? Or started the transition but wasn't able to finish the process? Well, you're in luck because now you have the easiest way to become a vegan. A simple and clear guide to embracing a vegan lifestyle. For more information, please visit www.veganintel.com and get your guide today.
Also, when you do it, just you do it. Don't have the whole family do it. It'll be a disaster. If you're watching me and you want to eat, don't go home and say, honey, we're going to eat better. Kids go, don't do that. Let the rest of the family eat the way they eat. You're the one want to change. You change. Don't try to change your wife or don't try to change your husband. Don't try to change the children. Don't make that mistake. You change. Leave everybody else alone. And get firm yourself because action speaks louder than words. And you're going to set the example. Every little thing you do is going to help. Because as you change, what are you going to do? You're going to be bringing more fruit into the house. Well, you think your children ain't going to eat up them pears and them apples and them plums and them peaches and that watermelon? Your kids going to eat that up. Feed them what they've been eating. You listen, they're eating something already, and you're a changer. Let them keep eating what they're eating, and you slowly change what you're eating. No, it's not going to be hard. It's not going to be hard at all. It's going to be harder, Mrs. Moore, if you try to change them because everybody's going to fall off the wagon at one time. Mrs. Moore, get the easiest way to become a vegan. Let me explain something to you. All you and the children is in there eating. You start following the manual, right? What's going to happen? You're going to stop eating pork. You're going to still be eating beef and chicken and fish, right? So then next you're going to get off this and get off that. Well, the children can keep eating what they've been eating because it'll be a while before you get off meat. So it's going to be a while before you finally get off fish and all that. So it's not going to bother you. Plus, if I'm up to chicken, Okay, if you're up to chicken and turkey, your children can be eating chicken and turkey and fish. You still eat that. And by the time you get strong enough to go vegan, it's not going to matter what they're eating because you're going to be still feeding them that while you're getting stronger. So that's going to really help you actually, Mrs., by still feeding them what they're feeding while you slowly get off of it. You might crave it at first, but eventually you won't. You'll be able to get them their food and give you your food. You know, eventually you'll be able to feed them and eat what you eat, and it won't affect you none. Because it's easier this way, Mrs. Moore, than it is to try to get everybody to change when everybody don't want to change. It's not about feeling bad. Okay, listen. It's not about feeling bad. You cannot force them to eat what you want them to eat. How old are your children, Mrs. Moore? How old are they? That's the first thing. How old are your children? How old are your children? That'll determine. If they're little kids, you can give them whatever you want to give them. How old are they? Because I can't really give you advice. I know how old they are. Your children are not 20, right? How old are your children? Are you going to get it pretty fast? It's going to go out tomorrow if you order it today because I'm sending out some orders. So you'll get it. What is it, Friday? You'll get it sometime next week. How old is your daughter? Your daughter's 20? Mrs. Moore, your daughter's 20? That's not no kid. That's a grown lady. That's not a child. That's a grown lady. She's 20 years old. Plus, she can make her own food at 20. You know what I'm saying? But, like I'm trying to tell you, Mrs. Moore, if you want to help your daughter, you have to do it. Because she going to go get what she going to eat. All right, well, you don't get it. You can worry all you want. When she get in the car and go, what you going to do? So I thought you was talking about a little kid. You're talking about a grown lady. You understand? Listen, Mrs. Moore. She has to make that decision on her own. You cannot make nobody change the way they eat. It's a self-improvement. The only chance she got of eating better if you just go ahead and do it. Because if you try to help her go vegan and you fall off the horse, you're going to do more damage than anything. If you don't, listen, Mrs. Moore, if you don't succeed, you're not going to help her anyway. The only thing going to help her is if she look up 2 years from now and you a vegan and you stay a vegan. See what I'm saying, Mrs. Moore? If you want to help her, you got to change and let her, because when you change at first, she's not going to be impressed. She's not going to be impressed until 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. That's when she's going to say, okay, I think I'm finna try that. My mama been a vegan for 3 years. That's how you got to do it. Because if you try to change her and you got to change you. You need to worry about yourself. Like if she 20, she ain't as in much danger as you. At your age, you better stop eating that stuff. Because you can't be worried about her. You better worry about yourself and take it to the next level. And if you want to help her, the only way you can help her is you achieve it. You got to achieve it to help her. If you don't achieve it, and I tell vegans all the time, the only people you can make be vegan is your babies. Your babies, they don't know you're making them be vegan. They're going to eat what you feed them. By the time they get in about the second or third grade, it's a wrap. But, like I told people, my sister last year told me, I'm a vegan. I've been a vegan a year and I don't miss meat. She's only a vegan, and I've been a vegan 43 years, and my sister just turned vegan. But she's getting older now. But if I wasn't consistent, she wouldn't be a vegan. So you have to set the pattern. Please don't go preaching to eat better to nobody else. It's the worst thing you can do when you're trying to transition. So let's take me. When I first threw my fish away, if I was preaching to everybody to go vegan, what would I say when I went back and bought fish? So it's really not good to talk about it. When you're trying to transition, shut up. Don't talk about it. Just do it. Don't go preaching to everybody before you know you're going to succeed. Because if you tell your parents and everybody you change it and you fall off the horse, now you did more damage. Now your daughter or your mother and them like, Miss Vegan, look, she back eating meat. You just messed everything up. Not only that, you might fall off the horse and now you can't help them because they looking at it like talking all that vegan stuff. See, you do more damage. If I'm trying to go vegan and I don't talk about it, and I get off fish and I go back and eat fish, it's not going to affect nobody because I'm not talking about it. But if I go tell everybody, all my family members, yeah, y'all need to go vegan. Yeah, y'all need to go vegan. And then they see me back eating chicken and fish. I just ruined them. Because I was talking about something that I couldn't even do. And that's horrible. Don't do that. Don't do that. Do you? Do you? Because the more you brag about it, the worse it is. And the reason you fell off the wagon, Maxwell, because you didn't do it this way. If you do it this way, you will never go back. Because you cannot force yourself to stop eating meat because now you still crave it. You have to really naturally get off of it. If you force yourself to get off of it, you're only off of it physically, but you're not off of it mentally. So you got to get my manual. This will help you get off of it mentally. How you think I've been a vegan for 43 years? Because I got off of it mentally, not physically. Physically, not going to work. So some people, they think about it physically. So they ask me, what? Do you ever crave it? No, because I got off of it mentally. I'm not forcing myself to be a vegan. I really got off of it. There's a difference between getting off of it and force and stop eating it. Stop eating meat is not going to work. You have to really stop wanting it. And you can't stop wanting it, right? Unless what? The only way you can eat right is up here. You have to do the research and you have to really believe that it's no good for you. If you try to stop eating it, you can't eat it based on, I want to eat better. I want to eat better, it's not going to get it. You can't think on terms of, I want to eat better. That's not going to work. You have to think on terms, I don't want to eat this bad stuff. You have to think what you don't want to eat, not what you want to do. You have to say, I'm not eating this cheese. This cheese gonna kill me. This meat gonna kill me. I don't want cancer. I don't want it. I don't want diabetes. I don't want amputation. Okay, we've been over here 2 hours and 9 minutes. That's 120 minutes, 130 minutes. 260 people got an amputation. Every 30 seconds, somebody's getting an amputation. So the only way people say, well, do you ever want to eat it again? I really believe it will make me sick. I'm not just off of it like that. I'm not eating that. You know what I'm saying? You understand? So that's how I got off of it. You really got to know and do the research and really know, no, this ain't no good for me. So offering me some meat is like offering me fentanyl, heroin. Like drinking a soda with all that artificial flavors. I don't want no cancer. I'm not trying to commit suicide. I'm not drinking no red dye. Under no circumstances. I'm not drinking that. So that's got to be the concept. It can't be, I want to eat better. It's got to be, I got to stop eating bad. That's got to be the concept. Other than that, it's not going to work. If you're interested in becoming a plant-based vegan, go to www.veganintel.com and order the easiest way to become a vegan. The days of eating chickens and cows and pigs is over with, baby. Go plant-based, clean your life up, get your mind right. So yeah, the easiest way to become a vegan, get that, take your time, go slow, nice and slow. Don't go fast because you're going to go backwards. Trust me, that's what I did. I tried to go fast, I threw everything away, I had to go back. So that's why I wrote this manual. It'll show you how to do it. If you take these steps, you will not go back because you're not going to go forward fast. Go slow. Steady as she goes. Go slow. If you change slow, you won't go back. If you change fast, you'll fall off. Guaranteed. Guaranteed, if you try to change fast, it won't work. It won't work. Because you're going to still be craving it. You have to get over the craving. It's too many things to quit at one time. Okay, let's say you're going to go vegan. Let's look at this in terms of numbers. What does that mean? No pork, no beef, no chicken, no turkey, no shrimps, no lobsters, no oysters, no fish. Right? So that's 8 things. Then no dairy. Well, that's not one thing. How many things you eat got dairy in it? And eggs and stuff. So when you say no dairy, that's probably 20, 30 things. That's cookies and all that. See, because the dairy's not just the eggs and the milk, because the eggs is in your cakes. The eggs is in your cookies. The eggs and milk is in all your stuff. You can't quit all that. You can't quit all that. You can't do that. So you get the manual and go slow. As you're going slow, that's going to give you time to learn how to cook. So by the time you get to fish, if you get my manual, by the time you get to fish, you're going to be eating everything vegan and fish instead of waiting till you go out for fish and change it. So as you're getting off, you're making everything else better. So while you're eating your chicken and your fish, you slowly buy some better bread. You slowly start buying some better rice to go with your chicken and your fish. You clean up everything else. You go get, you're still drinking sodas, but you get ginger ale or some ain't got no artificial color in it. You slowly clean up everything while you're still on chicken and fish. So by the time, and when you get off chicken, you just be on any seafood. So when I got off chicken, I was on any seafood. I go to Red Lobster, eat everything they got. Because you only concentrate on what you're not eating. So if you stop eating pork, if you do my method, when you stop eating pork, eat everything but pork. Don't try to stop nothing else. If you want to be successful, straight up, you want to be successful, you get off pork, eat everything, don't try to quit 2-3 things. Next, you off when you get off pork and beef, eat everything but pork and beef. You'll be able to do it fine. When you get off pork and beef, eat everything but pork and beef. Don't try to cut nothing. You ain't trying to eat better. You're just trying to get off pork and beef. That's it. That's it. Then you try to get off chicken. When you get off chicken, eat everything but pork, beef, and chicken. And I mean everything. And then you keep going. Don't try to cut no 5-6 things at one time. That's too hard. And if you take my approach, you'll never go backwards. Because before you become a vegan, you already be strong. Because you're not going to go to the next step until you're sure you don't want to go back a step. And so this is designed for you to mess up and you're not a failure. There's some deep psychology here. You're not a failure. This is designed for you to go back. So you get off pork, you get off beef, you get off chicken, you eat seafood, you fall off. What do? You go back to chicken. Don't fall off all the way back to pork and beef. You get off step 1, you get off step 2, you get off step 3. Now you're on step 4. You fall off, go back to step 3. Stay at step 3 for a while. Try to go back up to 4. You fall off, go back to 3. Wait a little while, try to go up to 4. You fall off, go back to 3. Don't go back to 4 and 5. If you do that, you're going to be successful. Don't go all the way back from fish to beef. Go back from fish to turkey and chicken. Wait, then get off the turkey and chicken and eat all the seafood. And if you fall off, go back one step. As long as you keep going back one step, you're successful. If you go back 2 steps, you went up too fast. You went up too fast, because before you get off beef, before you get off chicken, you should not want no beef. You got to make sure before you go to the next step that you don't want the last step. I don't never want that no more. So once I get off pork and I get off beef, I'm not going to get off chicken until I don't ever want beef no more. And once I'm sure I ain't never eating beef no more, then try to get off chicken. Because if you mess up, you ain't going to eat beef and pork no more, because you ain't never going to eat that no more. So if you mess up, you go back to chicken. When you go back to chicken, don't go, oh, I fell off my horse. No, you didn't. You took the proper steps. So I got it where psychologically you don't fail. It's no failure. Going back one step is not a failure. Going back 2-3 steps is a failure. Going back to the last step is not a failure. Is popcorn bad to snack on? It depends on what you're eating. If you eat meat, no. If you're getting on beef and chicken, like I said, eat everything. Don't worry about all that stuff till you become a vegan. Don't worry about popcorn and all that. Wait till you become a vegan first, then worry about all that. Don't be trying to stop eating popcorn and you still eating chicken. That don't even make sense. Like I said, eat everything except what you got off of. Get the manual and explain it. Don't listen to these other vegans. They don't know what the heck they talking about. Don't listen to me. I'm a pro. I'm the pro. There ain't too many vegans on my level. Period. White, black, or Asian. Very few. I think Supernova Sloan, he was born a vegan. So I give him some problems. But most people, they ain't been doing it that long. They're going to give you bad advice. You taking advice from somebody that might fall off, that might go back to themselves. Take advice from me. Don't think about a lot of stuff. And don't listen to no vegan stuff, because they're going to tell you this ain't no good and this ain't no good and that ain't no good. And you don't need to hear all that while you're just trying to clean up. Okay? Eating right is just like school. What you got? You got kindergarten through 6th grade. Then you got junior high school. Then you got high school. Then you got college. Then you got grad school. This is elementary school. Don't listen to no high school, college vegans. I'm not here to teach you alkaline in that. I'm from kindergarten to 6th grade. I help people get off meat. I don't help you eat perfect. I help you stop eating bad. I'm not trying to help you to eat perfect. I'm here to stop you from eating so bad. Then once we eliminate so much stuff, then we'll work on perfection later. Because if you try to quit too much stuff, you're going to go crazy. And you ain't going to be able to do it. I ain't going to hold you. You ain't going to be able to do it. That's too much at one time. You got to learn how to shop. Hey, listen, like I said, bro, straight like that, you said I love beef and fish and quail. Let me tell you something. That's why I said, unless you believe it's no good for you, nothing's going to work. So all that you love it, that's because you don't believe you're killing yourself. If you really believe that you could get colon cancer, I bet you wouldn't eat it. You don't believe it. So that's why you like that, bro, straight like that, because you do not believe that stuff is damaging your colon and your rectum and your bowels and your pancreas. You don't believe it. No, you don't believe it. Not if you go back and eat it. If you go back and eat it, you do not believe it's going to kill you. You think it's a little bad, but you don't think it's going to kill you. Some people don't believe it's going to kill them until their kidneys go out, or until their liver go out, until their stomach start hurting. They go and they tell them they got colon cancer. Some people, So that's why I said the first thing is coming to the realization that this stuff going to kill you. Period. You understand what I'm saying, though, bro? Straight like that? I'm not getting on your case. I'm just teaching you game. Like, until you really... Okay, let me give you all an example. I got in some trouble for something I didn't do, and I had to go to the Cook County Jail. My bond was $250,000. I didn't want to get him no $25,000. I wanted my bond to come down. So I'm in the Cook County Jail. You can't be vegan in there. So I'm drinking cow's milk. I'm eating cereal, whatever's in it. I'm eating bread, cheese, mayonnaise. I mean, everything but meat, right? So when I get out, why didn't I keep eating cheese and bread and cereal and cow milk? Because I didn't want to eat it then. I'm thinking this stuff is poison, but it ain't going to kill me this little bit of time. So when I got out, you think I ate that? Heck no. So it wasn't like I had to force myself to get out because it didn't taste good to me. It was garbage. I knew it was garbage. I was eating garbage. So I wasn't like, ooh, this garbage good. No, this is garbage. So the first time I get out, you think I'm eating the garbage? Soy is all right if you're a woman. For a man, it might got a little too much estrogen in it. So if you don't really believe it's garbage, you can't get off of it. You can't get off of it. You gotta really do the research. So I don't eat it. It's garbage. I can't eat that. No. If I would have been eating that stuff till now, 64, my insides would be shot. Man, my insides would be shot. If I was putting all that stuff in there, all that preservatives and all that fake stuff, man, ain't no way I'll be, you know what I'm saying? So you got to do the research. You can't force yourself not to eat it. You really got to, like when I got off cigarettes, I really knew they'd give you cancer. So I got off from in high school. I quit smoking cigarettes when I was a freshman, high school. So you got to really study and really know and really want to live. You can't kind of want to live. And you got to say to yourself, do I want to roll the dice and take the chance getting sick eating this? Anybody could get sick. For example, let's say my lungs start bothering me, right? And I go to the doctor and they say, you got lung cancer. I'm going to be like, dang. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be like, dang. Okay, I got to try to eat right and go get radiation and chemo and get rid of the lung cancer. All right, I ain't going to be happy about that. But let's say I smoke cigarette after cigarette after cigarette, and then I go and they tell me I got lung cancer. I'm going to feel like a damn fool. I just sit up here and kill myself. If I get lung cancer now, I'm going to be like, dang, I wonder if it's the environment or what. But I ain't going to feel like I killed myself. But if I sit up and I smoke cigarette after cigarette and I go and they say, oh, Mr. Pharaoh, you got lung cancer. You gave yourself lung cancer. I'm going to feel like an idiot. If I sit up and drink liquor all weekend, drink, and I go to the doctor, they say I got cirrhosis of the liver, I'm going to feel like a fool. Anybody could get sick, but I ain't trying to make myself sick. Usually we say, when somebody talking crazy or getting on our nerve, we usually say, you make me sick. Man, you make me sick. I ain't never heard nobody say, I make me sick. I don't want to make me sick intentionally. No, I ain't doing that. I'm not doing that. How you eat and eat and eat and eat and get so big that you got high blood pressure and they got to take your kidneys out? You actually messed your own kidneys up? Who do that? You know what I'm saying? So I mean, get it together. You gotta put that stuff down, because if you don't, there's mad sicknesses, heart disease, and everything.
Have you ever considered becoming a vegan but didn't know what steps to take? Or started the transition but wasn't able to finish the process? Well, you're in luck, because now you have the easiest way to become a vegan. A simple and clear guide to embracing a vegan lifestyle. For more information, please visit www.veganintel.com and get your guide today.
And I ain't gonna lie to you. Realist alive. Yeah, what's up, Tony? That's always good to see you, brother. I ain't gonna lie to you. It might be a struggle, but once you change the way you eat and you get into it, it's gonna be the most fun you ever had in your life. Look, I ain't never gonna lie to y'all. When you change the way you eat and you really change and you really get into a no way of eating, it's gonna enhance your life all the way around. Because when we grow up, right, we eat the same stuff every day. The way we eat is whack. Because every day all we eat is chicken, beef, pork, chicken, beef, pork, chicken, beef, pork. We don't be eating turkey like that. We eat chicken, beef, pork. Every now and then we get some Chinese food with some shrimps or something in it. But every day almost, we eat chicken, beef, and pork. And here go the thing. Check out the psychiatry. You know how they get us, y'all? They get us like this. They call it something different, right? So when you grow up, they brainwash you because they call it something different. They don't call it pork. So if you ain't careful, you'll get up in the morning and make some breakfast. It'll be some bacon in there, right? And then if you don't be careful, you'll mess around and have a ham sandwich for lunch. And you'll mess around and have some pork chops for dinner. And you had pig, but they call it something different. Much respect to Afro Universe for the $9.99. So they be getting us because they call it something different. So it's like, I got fried chicken. Tomorrow I got chicken Alfredo. This is how they do. And they even name it so, they name it something different. Yeah, because I'm black. See, King God. I'm born in 1958, so that's why I help so many people. I grew up, my parents from Alabama. I didn't become a vegan until I was 21. So I grew up on what black people eat: pork chops, bacon and eggs, ribs, rib tips, McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, Jack in the Box. Straight up. That's why I grew up like that, fam. So it ain't like no, you know what I mean? King God ain't like no, magical brother. I ain't like no magical brother, Mr. E right now. I grew up eating that mess, bro. I grew up eating that pizzas and all of that, White Castle, all that. So I know what I'm talking about. And they give you this, you eating the same thing. Tell me if I'm lying. Black folks, tell me if I'm lying. You in the car. Ladies, you're in the car with your girls. Dude, you in the car with the dude, with your brothers, right? Right? King God, or you in the car with your woman and you in there. And what we be saying, y'all? What you want to eat? I don't know. Ain't that what we be saying? We be like, what you want to eat? I don't know. You want to get some pizza? I mean, I had pizza Tuesday, man. Yeah. Am I right? It be whack. It be whack. We be trying to find something different. It be whack. Because it's only so many different things, and then you got to go back to one of them again. So we try to stretch it out, before we go back. Y'all had that talk. What you want to eat? I don't know what you want. I don't know what you want. That's what we be on. See, you say most people are dehydrated. See, King God, I'm glad you said that, because this is the thing. It's not about the meat. The meat is just a catalyst. Once you get off the meat, you get off the dairy, now your concept is healthy. Once your concept is healthy, now you want more fresh juice. You don't want artificial flavor. You don't want artificial color. Right? Then what? So now you clean up the way you eat. So now you come home, the house smell funny. Your woman go get the Lysol. Oh, baby, don't spray that. What's in this? Go get some 7th generation. Go get some natural spray. Hey, what's in this stuff I'm washing my dishes with? What I'm washing my clothes in? So then the concept be to take care of your health. Are you going to be drinking? No. No, you're not going to be drinking. You're only going to be drinking because you don't care nothing about your liver. So, Michael, you said don't roast you, but I'm not the problem. That's between you and your liver. And your liver not going to roast you. It's just going to go out. So you're looking at it like, don't roast me, I'm drinking, because you ain't looking at the concept, man, I'm messing my liver up. You're more interested in somebody not stopping you from doing something that's going to kill you. So your whole concept, Michael, is messed up because you're thinking about being roasted, but you roasting your liver, you burning your liver, because check this out. Alcohol is a liver cleanser. So if I take a shot of vodka right now, it's going to clean my liver, right? If I take a shot of vodka, it's going to clean my liver, right? So now, if I take some drink tomorrow, it's going to clean it some more. If I drink tomorrow, it's going to clean it some more. So if I took my hand and I took this paper and I rubbed my hand and I kept rubbing my hand all day today and rubbing my hand, at first it's going to clean my hand. But if I keep rubbing my hand all week with this paper, what's going to happen? It's going to start to what? Either way, my hand going to get sore. This paper is just soft now, but if I keep going around and around, it's going to tear this hand up. That's what's going on with your liver. Liquor. You're not paying attention how much liquor because your liver can't talk. So your liver's a hostage. See, look. Y'all holding your organs as hostage. You can see your muscles. You can see your skin. You can even see your teeth when you brush them. But you can't see your spleen, your colon, your kidney, your liver, your heart, your arteries. So they in the inside. So you just abuse them because you can't see them. So you just abuse your body, but you can't see it. But the whole time, every liquor, your liver got to drink all that liquor. You pouring, Michael, you pouring that liquor right into your liver. So now your mind don't mind it, your mouth don't mind it, but your liver pissed, bro. Your liver is pissed. Because your liver like, come on, dude. Really? Your liver can't speak for itself. So you bogus. Your heart can't speak for itself. Kidney disease, you don't even know you got it. Black people, kidney disease, you don't even know. You just be putting all that junk in your body. All of a sudden you get some pain in the back of your back. You're thinking, man, I'm back something, you know. You play it off. Next day, still a little pain. Next day, it's a little pain. By next week, it hurt you real bad. A couple of days after that, it hurt so bad, you're like, hey, something ain't right, baby. Take me to the hospital. Your girl take you to the hospital. Hospital do some tests. You know what they're going to say, King God? You know what they're going to say, Michael? They're going to come out and say, it's your liver. We got to remove it. Because check it out. It's your kidney, It's your kidney. We got to remove it. And check this out. Your kidney don't give you no warnings. Boy, your kidney, most time your kidney don't give you no warnings. Are y'all understanding me? It just go out. By the time you don't feel good and you go, they got to take that kidney out. Your boy's 49 on dialysis. I'm telling you. I did this the other day. Watch this. Watch this. I did this the other day. Watch this. Dialysis center. I hope I don't keep pushing it wrong. Watch this. Dialysis center, watch this. Dang, I keep. So I wish I could scroll this up without. I keep touching it. I'm going to try to do it without touch. Watch this. Dialysis center, right? Watch this. Oh, man, I can't do this for nothing. This is so hard. Hold on. It's so hard to scroll this shit. I'm trying to scroll it. But you can go to your phone and do it. You hit dialysis center, right? And then I'm going to look so I can try to do it right. Watch this. Can I get a good picture? Dang, I can't get no clear picture. And as far as you scroll up, forever, it's going to say dialysis center. Go to your phone and try it. Say dialysis center, and then scroll up. It's a billion of them. It's a billion of them. Go to your phone, say dialysis center, and scroll up. You know what I'm saying? So, you got to take it serious. You know what I'm saying? I try to tell my children, the bottom line is this. These people don't care nothing about you. They make money. You know what I mean? They're making money. They don't care nothing about you. They're going to rob you blind. So you better exercise and get in shape and leave that stuff alone. Because black folks number one in everything. Cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, colon cancer, rectal cancer, kidney cancer, kidney failure, liver cancer, peripheral artery disease, stroke, heart attack. 4 out of 5 black women is obese and overweight. 3 out of 5 black men is obese or overweight. Every 30 seconds, somebody in America getting an amputation. All in the South, people getting amputations. And we got comorbidities. Congestive heart failure. We got comorbidities, King God. We be having 3 things wrong with us. You go to the doctor, you obese, your kidney going out, you got congestive heart failure or peripheral artery disease. Like, we got comorbidities. We be having 3 things wrong with us at one time. It's a 911. I'm telling you, it's a 911. Our health situation is a 911. I'm a kid you not. I kid you not. Our situation is a 911. Real talk. In every sense of the word. I kid you not. Amen. So listen, y'all. It's been great. Y'all have a good night. Eat right. Take care of yourself. Remember, health is wealth. So take care of yourself.